A little while ago, I recorded a live call all about resistance. Resistance and what resistance is, where it comes from, that fear-based resistance, and how it affects our lives in all different areas, and then how to cognitively be able to deal with that resistance and that fear, and then also added a process that allows you to do it in a different way with one very special question. And I thought it was so interesting that I wanted to put that on to the Personal Development Unplugged podcast too. So here it is. Have a listen, have some fun, and give me some feedback. It'd be great. Resistance. Resistance and what form resistance plays in our lives and where it shows up, how we can deal with it cognitively, because I think there's always a good space that there are things that we can do just ourselves. And then there was a question that I found that I thought would be absolutely brilliant to go with it. And we may just do a little process at the end. So, resistance. Now, Stephen Pressfield, who's an author, wrote a lovely book, and most of his books are all about resistance. And I think he's one of us, The War of Art. That was the first one I read, and there's a few more. And it's all about being a creative. He talks about writing a lot, but it's that creative side where we want to do something, we have something, and we resist doing it. And that resistance, he is saying, is born out of fear. And I think he's right, because if you think about anything that we do or don't do because we're resisting it, then there's some fear in there somewhere. What the cause is, what the positive intention is, may be different, but I think it's something that we could explore. So here's a few things that I came up with. One of it was cognitive dissonance, which is basically holding two conflicting beliefs. A typical example of that is a smoker. A smoker who smokes because they're a smoker, but also they know and they believe that smoking causes them bad health, and in the future will do that. Will create not such a good ending probably. Yet they continue to smoke, and they're probably smoking because they believe it does something for them. So they've got two conflicting beliefs. I think it does good for me, it does bad for me. But the way I see it is in the cognitive, I can't even say it all the time, cognitive dissonance is things like, it's that intuition. When you want to do something, or you think you ought to be doing something, and what happens is you get that feeling, don't you? I think we've all had it, haven't we? We've all had that feeling where I'm not sure. It's not a voice, it's not anything concrete. I just got this feeling. And sometimes we go with it and sometimes we don't. But that feeling, I think, is like your unconscious mind connecting with you and saying, wait, do something, think about something. And I think sometimes if you're like me and you've gone against that feeling, because if the other thing was the right thing to do, it's either peer pressure or social or whatever it is, you just think, I think this is the right thing to do because of everything out there. But yeah, I still get that feeling. Most times it doesn't quite go as good as you thought it would. Sometimes it doesn't go good at all. I can remember a time when I spent days thinking about a particular thing, an opportunity I had. And I knew, peer pressure, everyone said, no, do it. It's what we've been thinking about. This is the thing you've been thinking about. You're going to have such a great time when you do this thing. all the while inside there was this feeling of, I don't know what. But it wasn't a good feeling. It wasn't going, yes, Cluffy, go do it. It was, I don't know. And I went against it. And if you've had those similar examples, I went against it and it didn't turn out right at all. Yet I made a similar decision a few years later and it did feel, yes, this is the right thing. So, but there's that fear. But it's like an unconscious signal, I think. So have a think about that. There's another area I thought of, which was fear of change. Now, everyone says, everyone doesn't like change. Well, it maybe doesn't like change, but it's a bit like, well, I'm in my comfort zone. And you know what we call our comfort zone? We call it a familiar zone. Because there's that imaginary line, although it doesn't feel imaginary, because we're in this pocket of familiarity. I can't say the word all the time. Familiarity. Nearly got it. And stepping past that line is, not sure. I'm going to, and we resist going past that line. We think it's good for us, but not so sure. I'm going to give you a little example. Everyone who has come to Mind Mastery probably had that feeling. I've got this issue. I really want to get rid of it. But, there's that thing about being unsure of maybe the result, but also, I've lived with this for a long time. I know what it is. It doesn't feel good all the time, but I know what it is. And I know of people who have completely resisted any stepping over that boundary. And it's imposed up here, isn't it? It's our boundary that we put on it. Because even how bad it is in the world, not knowing what's on the other side, well, they don't go past it. But we've all had that experience when we just, fear of change, we just go past that familiar zone, and things have happened which can be so brilliant. Especially if we do it in the right way. But there's that signal of fear. Signal of fear is a resistance. Where else do we notice it? Have a little think yourself. You see, what about self-sabotage? Now, if you've listened to me over the years, I really have trouble with self-sabotage. Not myself doing it, but listening to people. Because at one time, it was like a badge of honour. Instead of having this little thing emblem here, it was, I self-sabotage. And people were proud of it. Oh yeah, I haven't been able to do that because I just keep self-sabotaging all the time. No, you don't. It's just shows up, doesn't it? And there's reasons why, but there's a resistance to doing the thing that you're doing. And, whether you do different things, alternative things that put you off it. And it's very close to procrastination, which we're going to deal with. And that was a question that Craig came up with in my previous Q&A, doing things that we don't want to do. Why can't we do them? There's a lot of it. There's that fear of change. These are all interlinked, by the way. The cognitive dissonance. I know I need to do it. I know it'd be good for me. But there's also all the stuff that might not happen. So we've got different beliefs. Fear of failure. And then we come to beliefs in a minute. But that self-sabotage is that we do things, but we follow different instincts. And why is that? And it's like the unconscious. It could be unconscious, conscious. Certainly the two are acting together because it doesn't feel good. Because we know, you know as well as I do, when you do these things that not allow you to move on, you have this like clash, isn't it? Things rowing together. It's that, I know I want to do this. It's that parts integration in some way. One part of me wants to do this, the other part, and it's all, I think, based underneath a fear. What else? What else comes from or shows up as resistance? Well, I think it's like limiting beliefs. That was the next thing I came up with. Things like, I'm not good enough. And we've all had that. We've all had that. And if you've been around me a lot, you know that I have problems with I'm not good enough as a limiting belief, because I think it masks what the real limiting belief is, and then the real core issue and the real positive intention behind that. But when we have things like I'm not good enough, there's fear in that, isn't there? Because of what the effect may be, the result may be, success or failure. And again, NLP presuppositions, there's no such thing as failure, it's only feedback. Well, that's about right. Unless you don't take the feedback and you do the same bloody stupid thing again and again, that to me is a failure. Because you have the opportunity to learn. But the fear underneath. And you also get that thing, and this is what really sometimes bubbles in my head sometimes, because some people will also say, I'm not worthy. Now, how many times do you use the term worthy in your normal daily life? To me, it's like Knights of the Round Table. Sire, you're not worthy. But we come up with it as a limiting belief, which is resisting going forward to do things. Yeah, positive intention. It could be fear of failure. Could be, but you also get the other beliefs, things that when we go even deeper, I'm stupid. I just can't do it. Who am I? It's all a form of resistance pulling us back, I think. Not letting us go forward. Always wonderful positive intentions. Never get away from that. There's every behaviour we have has a positive intention for ourselves. But there are better ways, as we know, to keep the positive intention and find better behaviours. But we're looking at this resistance and the fear that's underneath there. What else do we get? And this is, I started to really just go to the edges of my mind in a way, in my thinking. And then I thought, you're doing a lot of thinking here, Cluffy. Are you overthinking? Overthinking is, I'm an options person. Told people before, I love options. But then sometimes I would have not just, because people say one option is not an option. Two options, well, they're not options really, because it's either this or that. Three options, now we've got somewhere something to grab hold of and look at the different effects. But I wouldn't stop at 3. I'd go 4, 5. I've had on a problem up to 7 different options where I think I can do this. And then I get, well, I'm not going to make a move because I can't decide which option to take. There's a resistance. Well, what about over here? What about that? I've told you about my friend. Excuse me. My friend. Call him my friend, but he was my business partner. But he was my friend. We worked really closely for 15 years. And we would have a problem. And he would send me away. Say, Paul, you go home. Have a sit down. And have a think about, the way you think. Get your mind maps going. Get your options. And let's see where we're going to go. Come back tomorrow and we'll have a look. And I used to come out with all these options. And I said, come on, Mike, we're going to have a chat with each one. And he goes, no, pick one. I said, I can't. He said, pick one. Because you've done the work. Stop overthinking. Let's take action. Because that's what overthinking stops you doing. Stops you doing, rather. Stops you taking action. Because there's always another thought. And you see, one of those thoughts might be, well, it's got to be perfect. And that was a little bit of a problem because everybody, when you have a thought that things have got to be perfect, which is then linked to I'm not good enough, isn't it? Because if I'm not good enough, I've got to be perfect because then I might be good enough. But guess what? As we know, nothing is perfect. So you're always going to fail on trying to achieve perfecticity. I think that's the word I used last time because it isn't a word, but it's a great word. Perfecticity. We're just not going to get there. So there's that resistance with failure and with fear underneath, isn't there? Overthinking. Now, can you see these are all these different things that we do in our daily lives that I never, at the time, before I got into this little topic, I never really thought about them too much as fear. Yeah, one or two obviously came up in the work that we do, but generally, some of these things, well, I didn't think overthinking was fear. But when I thought back as I was preparing here, yeah, I did have a sort of fear of making mistakes. Maybe I got to find the perfect answer. And as we know, there's no perfect answer. And if you take action, you can always take small steps of action, which means then if something isn't quite going right, you get back on course by taking a different small step. And what else is there? There's the other badge of honour, procrastination. Oh, I always procrastinate. No, you don't. You don't always procrastinate. I'll tell you that now, because you'll see those people who always procrastinate will do things that they want to do. But we find, I think you can define procrastination as just putting things off. Just putting things off. And we can even put off, if you remember, coming here, coming to Mind Mastery. How long and hard did you overthink, maybe, put off the decision to come to Mind Mastery? Was that fear of change is there still? Was those limiting beliefs really playing up, coming to the fore? Did you sabotage it a little? You can see how this all interlinks. So there isn't just one standalone area of resistance. They all have their own different steps interlinked with each other. You can even procrastinate on growth. We're here in the Mind Mastery, not just to let go of your core issue. You think you do. You think that's what the aim is. But no, that's part of it. It's all about developing ourselves into the person we are meant to be. That best version of ourselves. But that can be scary, can't it? Ooh. Have a little. Again, stepping out of that comfort zone, familiar zone, changing. And because that's scary, and what is scary? A little bit of fear. So there's a few areas. I'm sure there's more. Maybe you could have a think about different areas of your life where you can maybe come up with different parts of where you've resisted moving forward. Create the life you want, maybe. Dreams, goals. And I think you'll find either they fall into those areas, or if you find another area, you'll find how they link. They will have a limiting belief in it, maybe. Maybe it's a fear of change. Maybe it's, part of overthinking, procrastination, fear of change, all those things. But then I thought, having gone through that, I wanted to come up with some solutions. Things that we could do to ease this resistance, to let it go, really. Because we shouldn't really base our decisions on fear, because if you're in a negative emotion, that is not the right emotion to make choices, is it? To have to step out of that. And I wanted some cognitive ones, things that we could do with our conscious mind and our unconscious, but it's led by our conscious mind, thoughts, things that we can do. And we can do them now. We can actually create the behaviours. So going back over that list, let's go back to cognitive dissonance, where we hold different beliefs and we've got that feeling we don't quite know what. What can we do? Literally, what can we do? And as I thought about this, I thought, well, that's what we do in journaling, isn't it? Self-reflection. We write about areas of our life that sometimes, and I tend to find, this is maybe just me in journaling, I tend to err on the negative, not the negative, but the problematic areas of my life, the things I need to deal with, as opposed to all the good things. I'm getting better at it now, recognizing and being, getting gratitude with that. But self-reflection. Now, also have, as you know, I think I'm sure I've said it before, call it a puzzle book. It's a really complicated book. It's a book of plain pages, basically, where as I open it up, if I've got an issue, I can, and I love mind maps, I can put the problem in the centre of that page. If I open it up, it's a nice big page. Plenty of room to think. Not overthink, but think. To reflect. And I can then reflect and journal around that particular issue. Self-reflection. And when you do that, and it doesn't always happen straight away, you do your thoughts and you leave a few bits. I love a mind map that has a few tails with nothing on. Because you're saying to your unconscious mind, if you can think of something, let's add it. And so when you go for your walk or you're out doing things, you get those aha moments, that epiphany. Have you noticed most epiphanies never really happen when you journal or when you're writing? It's when you're out. Or you whip, and you, just listen to something. Oh, this is the thing. But I believe it's come from that reflecting about your beliefs, maybe. But we'll think about that in a minute. Because it's giving yourself time just to pause. And when you're pausing in your thinking and you've got your own positive intention, I want to reflect about this. I want to find an area. Your state is different than fear. You're in a productive state, as it were, positive state. And that's why I think the answers start to come. We've stepped out of that emotion that we were in. And we're looking for answers, especially if we start with the positive intention. I'm going to, reflect on this to try to find the answer. I wonder what answers will come that will lead me to something new. And when you say that to your unconscious mind, I think it just comes up. It will come up, but you've got to do the effort first. Okay, what about the fear of change? Yeah. Well, what could you do about the fear of change? What can you do? Well, a lot of people think that change is massive. You've got to do this big jump of change, big leap of faith. Throw everything out and start afresh. That's bloody frightening, isn't it? That is frightening. That's where fear is. But what about taking small steps? This is where we get to the edge of our familiar zone. And we don't leap way past it. We take one small step. One small step. And we take smaller steps. Now, isn't this how we do our goals? We don't jump to the next part of the goal. One of the metaphors I love, I don't even know who told me or whatever, but it was all about you never try to jump across a river or a stream that's too wide. Because when you do, you're going to get wet. Which is like taking too big a step to your goal. But you find a place where there's some stepping stones. And you take one small step onto that next one. And then the next one. And then you find those steps get bigger naturally as you build in confidence and competence. Again, you've got a different emotion now, not through fear, because you're seeing what is happening. You're judging. You're looking at the results in those small steps, which give you the confidence. And if Yeah, that's still too big a step. I'm going to find a smaller step. And that's when we realise, when we go past that edge of this familiar zone, comfort zone, that is self-imposed, we take that small step out and you go, oh, actually, that's not too bad. I remember saying in the actual recording that didn't work out, that there was Metaphors in Mind. It's a book by two people, and I can't remember their names. It was a long time ago that I went to one of their courses on Metaphors and Minds, and it's all about we live our lives in metaphors. This is just another set of processes, and it seemed to come as a more often than not that metaphor would be, there'd be a wall of some kind that they couldn't see through. They couldn't look over the top. It seems huge. And it stopped them moving forward. But with that process, it was literally in the metaphor, removing some of the bricks. Maybe you could remove one and look through it. Maybe you could make a set of steps to look over and then notice what's on the other side. But taking those small steps allow you to see what's over the other side without making the big jump, which is fearful. But taking a little step, well, that's easy, isn't it? Because I can always go back. But if I go forward a little bit, and what happens is that if there is a zone, if we make it a little bit bigger at the top, or if that's a movement out there, the whole diameter of that circle gets bigger. It matches the whole part. It seems to just happen that way. So that's fear of change. What about self-sabotage then? What can we do to stop us having this badge of honour? What can we do? Well, I think it's all about setting clear goals. I tend to find people who self-sabotage just don't really know where they're going. They haven't even thought about it. So we have we have a clear goal that we want to do. We may, if we want to do a little bit of visualisation, notice what that goal would be like when we get there to make sure it is the goal that we want to do. Because why would you self-sabotage or even just sabotage a goal that we really want? Because now we know what it feels like. We don't stay there. We come back out of that feeling. So we know that we haven't got it, and it's a direction we're going. But we've got that feeling of the wish fulfilled. But how do we do it? We take small steps. We may reflect. See, they're all interlinked again. We're using strategies from each of these little boxes. I draw them in boxes because I'm a mind mapper. But they're all interlinked, and we can take the skills and resources from each one. So that's how we can get rid of self-sabotage. Get a clear vision of where we're going, what it will feel like. Therefore, we're motivated to actually do it. So self-sabotage. Limiting beliefs. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy, Your Honour. Your Honour? What can we do to really work on limiting beliefs? I did say cognitively, but we've also got Module 6, remember. Module 6 on that timeline set of processes. One of them is releasing a negative belief, a limiting belief. But how do we do that? The actual process itself is a lovely process. I love timeline therapy, but it allows the unconscious mind to learn from the original event, the root cause. And when you learn from the root cause, you don't need the emotions, which is the first part of those Module 6. But we don't need the limiting belief either, because we've learned from it, and we can then form positive beliefs from the experience that we've been missing out on. But again, you can begin to think a little bit and go, well, is this belief that I have, I'm not good enough, actually true? Because I'm not good enough is a bloody great generality, isn't it? It's everywhere. I'm not good enough. No, specifically, where are you not good and where are you good? Because if you're good at different areas in your life, then I'm not good enough doesn't hold water. It means you've got a strategy of being good enough. And if you took that strategy and put it into the one that you've been using I'm not good enough in, unconsciously you'll go, oh, that's a safe way of being. Which is one of the things we do in NLP. Take a different context where you have the skills and beliefs and emotions and put it into another one and try it out. That's what hypnosis is, isn't it? You try things out and then the unconscious mind will choose. Well, that's what we do. Giving the unconscious mind choice to do the things when they're appropriate and let go of the things that are inappropriate. The other question you could put is, well, where did this bloody belief come from? Now, I can remember when I've been talking to people going below the I'm not good enough belief. They've come up with things like, I'm stupid. And when they've looked back, they go, oh, I know where it came from now. That's what someone said to me. Or is that one time that's now generalised everywhere else? It doesn't make sense. In fact, it's not even my belief. Now, is it mine is the question. Is that really my belief, or have I picked it up along the way? What's the data that I'm relying on? Because sometimes we have a belief and you go, I can't even find where it came from. Or there's nothing that bears a foundation of truth in it. It's just words. And when you get to, it's just words, oh, well, if they're just words, what's a better belief that will support me through this? Easy. Overthinking. Got all these options. Ever such an easy way, but it is a little bit, you give yourself time. Not a lot of time. You give yourself a time to think and then take action. So I'm going to think about this issue for the next half hour or whatever you think is appropriate. But don't be, well, I always take 5 hours to do it. That's because you're overthinking. No, I'm going to do this in an hour or whatever. And then go, okay, I'm now going to take action. But how do we take action? Small steps. Maybe that visualisation and the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Knowing where you're going, if you start from the end and work backwards. And then you go, okay, well, if I take this one small step, then I'll see the options. And if there's anything I have to mitigate, I can mitigate it and keep moving forward. It's one of the parts of the new behaviour generator, which I think is module 2, where we get our unconscious mind to look at the bigger picture and hold the smaller steps in mind. So we've always got that connection and continuum. So that's overthinking. I say, if you are an overthinker, that is something that's quite difficult. But then you go, no, sorry, I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to overthink this, because does overthinking work? No, it doesn't. It's in the title. It's overthinking. Thinking works, overthinking doesn't. Procrastination. Well, I think if you really want to get rid of procrastination, you have to be focused. You have to understand what you're trying to achieve. So that's the first one. What is it I'm trying to achieve? Which is a bit like self-sabotage. They're very much, these are all interlinked, remember. You get focus on what you want. Now, here's the thing. And this is the thing that you have to do. You have to do both parts of this process. The first part is, what's the pain of not doing this? Real pain. And if I don't do it, because a lot of people don't realise the pain of, when they procrastinate and they put off doing what they're going to do, at the end of the day, they're going to do it anyway, aren't they? That's what we do. We know we've got this thing that we have to do by the end of next week, and I put it off. And then we do it on the last day. And it's painful. And the thing is, it's not as good as it could be. And I've bloody had these thoughts all the way through, trying to worry, anxiety, and then putting it off, and then creating something from a negative emotion and the beliefs that go with it. See that pain. See that failure. Feel that failure. if there is a failure. I like failure in this one. I want you to really feel how bad it could be. And then you change state. That didn't happen because it hasn't happened yet. Because it's not going to happen. It just hasn't happened yet because that's in the future. You haven't got to that point where you've got to, finish this project or whatever. What's the other one? The pleasure. What am I trying to achieve? What would happen if it went absolutely wonderfully? I did all the things. I started early. In fact, if I started now in this relaxed state, I'd get it done before. I'd get enough time to tweak it, make it even better. I'd be really pleased and proud of what I'm doing. And I know when people see it, they're going to be pleased and proud. They're going to be thinking good things of me. Other opportunities are going to come along because of the things I've done. And plus, I've probably done it and I've got time to spare where I can relax and feel good about myself. And the positive belief that's going to come from that, the confidence, because I'm competent in what I'm doing and I've demonstrated it. And I did it with ease. Time to spare. And I feel so relaxed about it. Put the two together, which one do you want? It's a no-brainer, isn't it? I want to go for that pleasure. That's why you have to do the two together. Don't want to stay in pain, but I really want you to get into that state of pleasure and go, okay, now let's do a plan. Let's think a bit for the next bit. Let's see what steps I've got to do. What is a wonderful belief I would have to have? Because I now know where I'm going to go. I've done that visualisation. I got the feeling of the wish fulfilled. See, they're all and the small steps. Just get there. All seems to work, doesn't it? But they're the things you can do cognitively. But if you remember, I said there's a question. And the question is this. What if? Because this what if seems to just get you into that state. If you're worried about something, you have this resistance, this fear of, doing something, fear of change, fear of failure, fear of anything, which has caused you to have this cognitive dissonance, fear of change, the self-sabotage, limiting beliefs, overthinking, procrastination. Just think of what you're doing and go, what if it went really well? Write it down. Feel it. What if I was able to access every resource I need in a wonderful, calm and comfortable manner? How would that be? Makes a difference, doesn't it? What if I did this in the time available and just did it bit by bit with ease? What if this thing I'm changing went so well? What opportunities would come my way? How would my life change for the better? What if? So if it's okay, I just want to finish off. I know it's not as long as a normal Q&A, but I haven't got interaction with people. I wonder if you could bring to mind something that you've been, not a big struggle, not a 10 out of 10, just something where you've been indecisive, where you've had that maybe cognitive distance, or you've had the fear of, there's a little bit of change here, or I've been self-sabotaging or putting things off. Have this little thought of, me? Why me? Am I good enough for this? Should I be here? Bring to mind that particular issue. And if you would, just allow your eyes to close for a moment. And as you bring that issue to mind, take a wonderful in-breath with me. That's right, hold it for a moment or two and let it out long and slow, as if you're being drawn inside as you breathe out. And as you breathe out, Then breathe in, nice and gently. Maybe you could wonder inside. What would it be like to be 3 times as comfortable as I am now? What would that feel like now? That's right. So comfortable. And what it would be like if every muscle, every fibre of me just relaxed. And as you relax with every breath, every in-breath being more gentle than the one before, drifting deeper just for a moment, you have that little issue in mind, giving yourself permission and giving your unconscious mind permission just to ask the question, what if I did this really well? What if I was able to access all the skills and resources that I have inside to make this a success? What would that be like? What if I brought all my competence and confidence and energy, all the positive energy, to this, and it was such a success? What if, having done this, I was to attract wonderful opportunities? The changes would be so wonderful. What if I was able to establish those small steps to find my way to success? What if I was to have the most powerful set of supporting beliefs, positive beliefs that empowered me? What would that feel like? What behaviours would I begin to do? And what emotions would support me to creating this achievement, to be able to celebrate? What if I was to look back, having made those changes, and felt so grateful, so good? Yeah. And feel that feeling, and you can be so grateful because you and your unconscious mind are now as one, aligned to creating the success you deserve. Feel the feeling and feel that connection with your best friend. There. And when you're ready, knowing and being confident, then you're going to find a way now. Your unconscious mind will create all that you need, access all that you need to create that success, to create that wonderful change in a special way. Yeah. With that wonderful sense of competence and confidence, you can take a lovely in-breath and just open your eyes. And there we go. We're back. I really hope you enjoyed that. Really apologise for the problems that we had, but I wanted to bring this to your attention because I think it's really important to know you've got different things. It's that we haven't just always got hypnosis, but there are things that we can do and things that we experience in life that we can get better, make changes, do the things that we want, and take control. Become the real driver of our bus. We're going in a direction. We're driving that way. Joseph and I will help you steer occasionally, just keep you on track. But it's, you have it all. You really do. So there you go. Thank you so much and do enjoy.
This is Personal Development Unplugged with Paul Clough.
In simplicity, there is genius.
In simplicity, there is genius.